Hey everyone, it's Mike Andes, and you're listening to Business Bootcamp Podcast. Today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the things I've learned recently from some of the greats of our era in business and entrepreneurship, including Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos. Before we jump into those, though, I want to say a big thank you to today's sponsor, which is Gusto. If you haven't already, go to gusto.com/bootcamp for a free 90-day trial, 3-month trial of their software. And what Gusto is going to allow you to do is pay your people in a very transparent way where they can see what's going in, what's going out. You do direct deposits, run your payroll through there, and save money on either A, your current software, and B, the time it takes to sometimes go back and figure things out and ask an accountant. All of those things can be much more lean, much more simplified by going to gusto.com/bootcamp. Run your payroll through there and let me know what you think about it. But I promise you and many other people have come to find that Gusto is a very simple solution and fantastic for the small business owner like you. So before we get into today's show, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone for listening, for all your support recently, a lot of your questions and emails and all of that. It's been fantastic. I really appreciate that. But today I wanted to talk about, basically at the beginning of this year, one of the things I wanted to do was read the autobiographies of 3 of kind of the legends of the last couple decades in business: Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos. Now founder of SpaceX, so Elon Musk is the founder of SpaceX, Tesla, SolarCity, the Boring Company. Apple was Steve Jobs' creation. He's now passed away. And then, of course, we have Jeff Bezos, who is the founder of Blue Origin, which is a space company, as well as Amazon, a little company called Amazon, which is housed a couple hours from where I live here in Seattle. So at the beginning of the year, I wanted to read their books. They're all long books, and so I was like, I'm not really good at books, number one, so I have to listen to audiobooks, and then to try to fit that much time in is not easy as well. So it's something I've been wanting to do for the past 5-6 months, and I got it done before the mid-mark of the year, so I'm pretty happy about that. But I wanted to see, the main reason I wanted to actually read their book is because so many people comment on them, and a lot of people ask me what I think about them or the way they've done certain things, and usually I just kind of pass on and don't talk about it because I don't know. So I want to just kind of educate myself and learn from their experiences, learn from their life, and I learned a lot of things, what not to do, what to do, things like that. And some of the things, honestly, I would say that I'm not willing to sacrifice or be that way, even if it led to the success that they had. So I don't care if I'm going to put people in space. I'm not going to be an absolute idiot to my employees or to my family. Like that, those things are just by no means, by me talking about these business legends, am I condoning their poor behavior, whether it be in family, around people, and things like that. And so for many reasons, I would never want to be like them. But I think from a business standpoint, when I look at their lives and their autobiographies and what they've done in business, there's a lot I can learn from it. And so this is the Business Bootcamp Podcast. This is not like People Magazine where we talk about their lives. So I'm going to strictly focus on what I learned from a business point of view, because there's plenty of things to pick apart in their personal life, the way they treated people, the way they treat people. So those things I'm not going to really talk about. I don't really care about. This is a business show, and those are the things that I was learning about by reading their autobiographies. And so what I found really interesting, I learned so much. I'm going to talk about 4 things I wrote down real quickly about some of the things that popped out to me in reading these books, and things that I kind of personally took away from it. I think if you read them, you'd probably take away total different things. There's probably 20 things that if I really sat down I could think about, but these are the 4 that kind of came to my mind right away that I will kind of take away from reading these over the past few months. And so I wanted to share those with you. So like I said, a lot of these have to do with me personally, the things that I learned, and then that has to be brought to the filter of my mistakes, my failings, the things I'm not very good at, the things I am good at, my strengths, and things like that. And so I wanted to just kind of share those things with you all. So number 1 is I feel like there's 2 ways to really motivate your employees. And number one, that is to scare them, or number two, it is to inspire them. And I feel like all three of these people that, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, they all inspired their employees to an enormous level by having a great mission, a way that they saw the world and the way they wanted to change the world for the betterment of humanity, for the betterment of the company, for the betterment of their employees. And so they basically inspired people to do great things. And for the most part, they did that, but they also did use some level of literally scaring people into submission in terms of when they're first starting out, like doing things, saying things maybe that aren't politically correct, maybe screaming at employees, like things that I would probably never do. But I think it was good for me to read it because I tend very much to lean on, like, I want everyone to feel good. I want everyone to be happy. My employees, I don't want them ever to get them, I want everyone to just be happy. And so that's probably my failing is as a leader many times, is that I don't bring the law down. I don't just tell people, hey, look, this is my business. I'm running it the way I want to run it. And I am the one that governs the mission statement, where this company is going. I pay the bills, and you're going to do it the way I want it to be done. And there's a place and time for that, and there's a place and time for the way that I generally am, which is like hear everybody out, take everyone's opinion, test things out, listen to what everyone else is talking about, and then get their reactions, and then make a decision. And whereas I found with many times with these entrepreneurs, there were times that they were just blatantly going forward, and if people didn't align with that mission, people didn't align with what they thought the company should do, they literally just chopped them. They just, fired them, they got rid of them, and they moved on. And I found it very fascinating that all three of them had these characteristics, and it's something that I still need to work on. I tend very much, like I said, tend very much to really listen to employees. Maybe it's because I'm like a millennial or whatever, and I want to hear people's opinion. I want them to feel good. I want them to not have conflict in the workplace. On the other hand, I need to balance that out with the fact that, like, I have a certain mission. If people aren't aligned with that, I just need to let them go. And I don't care if they get mad at me or if they don't like me, and that I just let them go and not get so wound up in the feeling side of things and the emotional side, and just focus strictly on the business and the mission. And if people aren't going to align with that, they got to go. And there's that balance, because I don't feel like that should be the primary way to run a business. I don't feel like you need to scare people by hanging their job over their head all the time by saying, if you don't align with our mission or what I'm thinking or how I want things to be done, that you're going to lose your job. And so there's that balance of inspiring people by scaring them and inspiring them. And I tend much more to lean towards trying to inspire people, trying to have a mission that's bigger than anything else, trying to have a mission that is bigger than your competitors so you attract great talent, having a mission that is going to change the world. Like Steve Jobs wanted to put a dent in the universe. He wanted to create, put 1,000 songs in your pocket, and all of these things that basically, the reason people get so so encouraged and so inspired by Elon Musk is because he wants to go to space, and he wants to colonize Mars, and then he wants to solve the energy issues with Solar City and creating renewable energy. Then he wants to create a vehicle that's an electric vehicle that's cost effective and that can travel around the country for free using charging stations that are ran by a solar system. And then he wants to dig tunnels across the country and have faster transportation. And so people are inspired by that. And so that's why many people stayed at SpaceX, even though after 3 failed attempts of the Falcon 5, SpaceX was one launch away. If the 4th attempt had not worked out, we probably wouldn't even be talking about them today, because they were that close to going under. But I feel like the reason their employees stayed with them, the reason the employees stayed with Elon and supported him, is because he had a goal, he had an aspiration, he had a mission that he was going for that was greater than themselves. It was greater than their little lives and what they were going through. And so when you can get your employees and inspire them to something that's greater than what they're doing, their day-to-day job, and what the seemingly menial tasks that they're doing. If you can get a mission that they're going for, a goal that drives them, I feel that's very powerful. And so it's not so easy. This is the part that I was thinking about. It's not so easy to use that method when you're doing something that seems very, very menial or seems very, very like it's not going to impact the earth. It's not going to impact humanity. It's not going to make a massive impact on society or your local area or anything like that. And so I think it's very easy to be like, okay, well, that's easy for Elon Musk because he's trying to like colonize Mars and like change the way we drive cars. But on the other hand, I think it's very important that if you look at the micro of your business and figure out what are you doing to change the lives of your customers. And this is one thing that all three of these people, these business leaders talked about and thought about is the customer, the end consumer. And I think if we actually think about our end consumer, so for instance, landscaping and lawn care, that's not great. It's not amazing. There's thousands, hundreds of thousands of other companies that can do what we do. But then how do you inspire? How do you inspire your employees to even care? How do you inspire your employees to want to go beyond, go the extra mile and do something extra for the client and think outside the box and really perform the job with pride? And how do you do that? Well, if you take it back to the customer, for the customer, if you actually look at it, like if we're doing landscaping for a customer's property and we're mowing their lawn, their little heaven is like their property. Their flowers and their lawn and having the trees just right, that's their little heaven. And we are literally caring for their safe place when they go out from that place to work and school and they go do things. They might be running a business. They might be running a family and taking their kids all these places. But when they can retreat and come back to their safe haven, we're taking care of that place that they want to look beautiful and be proud of and have peaceful moments with their family and memories are made in that place. Like, that's something you can get inspired about, something that we are maintaining the heaven for our customers. Their little heaven, their little haven of rest outside of their life of business and hectic work schedules and school and stress, all of those things, they can retreat back to the place that we create for them and we maintain for them. That's a little bit more inspirational. So I think we can all look at our business, take it back to what our customers' needs are, and then get a goal, a mission, something that we can inspire our employees with that's bigger than themselves. So number one thing is I really realize that there's two ways to motivate employees. Number one is to scare them. Number two is to inspire them. There's a little bit of the scaring part I need to work on. And I don't mean I don't like using the word scare. It's not really a good word. But there is a portion of that I probably need to work on. And then two, inspiring your employees with something that's bigger and better than what they're doing on a day-to-day basis and get them to think ahead of what the day-to-day grind is. Number two is I really found that they all went out and got their money first. They got that figured out first. They got some sort of money first. And what I mean by that is Elon, he didn't start off with Tesla. He started off with Zip2, which was an internet company, and it basically was kind of like MapQuest and would do reviews of different local pizza shops and show people where to go, what their closest pizza shop was, and the local kind of like MapQuest. And that's what he originally started with his brother, and that's where he made his money. He sold that for millions of dollars to Compaq, and that's where he originally made his money. And then he went on to make X.com, which became PayPal. When he sold PayPal, that's really when he made his money. And that's the money he then used to launch Tesla, SpaceX, and make all these ventures, at least start them. And so what I find, and same thing with even Steve Jobs at a very micro level, when he got his first job at Atari making video games, he got a special project and made $5,000 to make a video game, and I think he gave $350 of that to Steve Wozniak to actually create the game. And so with that money is then what he used to get parts to then start building the first computer, what was later called Apple. And so I feel like many, many times young entrepreneurs, new entrepreneurs are wanting to get into the game of making the next Apple, not realizing that they had some sort of a foundation financially. And so I think it's very easy to look at all these great entrepreneurs and people that are making great changes in the world and starting these startups and starting these companies, starting out of a garage, all these things. However, I think if you actually take it back, most of the time for a company that's bootstrapped and for a business that is invested in by the founder significantly, the founders originally made money somewhere else. And many times not in things that are super elaborate or fancy or shiny. Jeff Bezos started Amazon selling books. And once he became successful at selling books, then he became Amazon what it is today, and with like massive logistics and all the shipping and selling just about everything and anything in the world is on Amazon. But it all started with something simple, books. And once they figured that out, then they begin to grow and scale and do things that are amazing. And so I feel like many times small business owners, we can be like, oh, we're just starting, but I feel like getting your money right in the beginning is super important. So for me, like I'm still super young. I'm don't have a lot of experience. I'm running Augusta Lawn Care Services. We've scaled it for 5 years, got the business model down. Now we're franchising, but like in 5, probably 10 years, like Augusta Lawn Care is not my end game. It's the thing I get my money right, and I hone my skills. And I think for a lot of not just young entrepreneurs but new entrepreneurs, we have to realize that this is a long game. This is going to take years for you to get actually the experience and the money required if you have the audacious plans and goals to go change the world and make an amazing startup, an amazing business that like does a technological revolution. Like if you have the massive goals and ambitions for that, I would recommend being humble enough to figure out that and realize that you're going to have to go hone your business skills and get your money right. Stack away a couple $1 million, stack away enough money to go do the thing that you are passionate about. Maybe you don't want to change the world or make some big technological innovation, but maybe you want to only have to work 20, 30 hours a week. Maybe you want to travel more. Maybe you want to get into an industry that you're really passionate about. But before you do that, you go and you get the business skills and you go get the money that you need to have the foundation for that next venture. So I'm super passionate about health. I'm super passionate about like global health and things like that. But I'm not going to go right now and go make the next, app that is going to be able to test for certain types of diseases in Africa. Like I don't have the money for it. But what I can do is get the business skills, the leadership skills, and the money required by spending my 20s by building up this thing called Augusta Lawn Care in an industry that's not very cool. No one really cares about it. It's just lawn care, it's just landscaping. Everyone can do it, and trying to figure out how to way to disrupt that industry before I move on to something that's much bigger and will have probably a bigger impact on the world. But for now, I got to focus on the thing that's going to make an impact on something small as the lawn care and landscaping industry. And when I say small, I take that with a grain of salt because I think it's a big deal what we're trying to do with Augusta. And it's all started small. Little over 5 years ago, I started Augusta Lawn Care, and I started off solo by myself, part-time. Then it grew into where I got a couple employees, and now it's like, okay, we have a solid business model. Now we're franchising. This time next year, there'll probably be, 20 locations of Augusta Lawn Care around the country. In 2 years, maybe 150. I don't know. But like there's that slow progression, that growth, each of those steps along the way. I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow, I'm going to figure things out. And then one day it'll be better for the franchisees and for the business that I'm not the one running it and that someone else takes over. And when I sell, that money will then be used to go to the next venture. And so I just saw that continual pattern with these business leaders that they got their money right, they figured something out, and usually in an industry that wasn't super cool or super interesting, and they maybe didn't even make that their main thing in life, but like that was their stepping stone. That was the thing. They figured out the money, they figured out their business skills, and then they went on to grow and build on that foundation. Third thing I realized, and I learned when reading their books, is risk. I think risk is part of the game when it comes to entrepreneurship. One thing that amazed me is their level of risk tolerance was absolutely incredible. The amount of times that they literally were going to go bankrupt, or they were like days away from paying payroll, from not being able to make payroll with very little cash in the bank. Like I don't have a huge amount of risk tolerance at the end of the day. Like some people would laugh at that because I have multiple businesses and I have ran down to where there's not money in the bank and things like that. However, I'm not the type, like for me, the biggest stress is if I had investors and they gave me money, like I would not be able to sleep if I was not on a very confident path to returning their money back to them. I would not, I just wouldn't be able to handle it. Same thing with loans. I would just, if I'm not on a very clear path to profitability, it would be very hard for me to take people's money and promise, and take personal loans and even promise employees stock options when I don't know if they're actually going to vest. So their level of tolerance of risk was enormous. There's one that actually stands out to me, Tesla. This is back in, I think, 2012, when Elon Musk was literally a day away from, like, payroll was the next day. He didn't have enough money to make it. But what he had done the week before is, what happened is, to make a reservation for a Tesla car, you can put like a $5,000 reservation down, right? But what was happening is people were not actually buying the car. They were just making the reservation, but then they weren't buying the car because number one, they wanted to wait for new features that were promised. Two is that people weren't really even confident that Tesla was going to be around in 5 years to maintain the vehicle. And so literally they had all these $5,000 reservations, but no actual orders. And so they actually shut down the Tesla factory for a week. And to the media and everyone else, they just said that, hey, we were doing this for maintenance. We need to do all these scheduled maintenance things on the factory. But in reality, they didn't have any cars to make because there wasn't enough sales to keep the factory busy. And so what Elon did is he knew that the company was on life support. He knew that they needed to make sales. So he had all his engineers, all of the people that worked on other, like, machinists, all of those people get on the phone and start calling these people that had reservations and asking them to actually buy and actually, like, selling them on the phone. And so what happened is they ended up selling like 500 vehicles that week, and that was enough for them to get the money and generate the first profitable quarter of Tesla's history. Thereby, like, the stock just went to the moon, and that actually is what prevented Google from acquiring Tesla for like $6 billion back in 2012. Is literally that one week when they were that close to going under, and that call was made to get on the phone, make these sales, and literally they were days away from not making payroll. And same thing with SpaceX. Like I said before, they had failed mission after failed mission after failed mission, and they were running out of cash. And if they wouldn't have gotten that last fourth mission accomplished, they wouldn't have been able to secure the government $1 billion or $3 billion deal that then they secured the funding to actually continue with the projects and continue with SpaceX. There's a good chance, like I said, if that fourth mission would not have gone well, if it would have failed, they wouldn't have got the government contract. We might not be talking about SpaceX today if that would have been the case. And so I find it amazing the amount of ups and downs in all of their businesses. Even after times like in 2012, 2013, when you think is like, oh, like that's only 5 years ago, and yet literally they were on their knees financially at Tesla or SpaceX. And so I find it amazing that all these business leaders had the guts, had the fortitude when I'm not very good with financial stress, because especially when it has to do with other people or loans or anything like that. I'm not very good at that. Like, it's something I need to get better at, and I know I probably have more risk, less risk aversion than most people. But when you're going to really change the world or like take money from investors and do something amazing, you really have to have the stomach to take a lot of risk and make promises that you know you can keep, but go against the odds of business, go against the odds of, gravity, like all these things. I thought it was amazing, the amount of fortitude they had time and time again, year after year, when stuff kept going bad and they just kept coming back time and time again. It was amazing. Fourth thing that I found that was important was that the CEO or the founder, all three of these business leaders, they are the heartbeat of the culture of their business. And so if you look at Elon Musk, the way that he works tirelessly, tons of hours, he expects that from his people, and that's the culture of Tesla and SpaceX and the Boring Company, is work, lots of hours, work on the weekend, hit deadlines, things like that. Same thing with Apple. When Steve Jobs was there, and that was the culture. That was the culture that was inbred. Same thing with Jeff Bezos. But all of those leaders, the thing I found fascinating is that at the end of the day, they all were consumed with one thing, and that was the customer. That was the consumer. And at the end of the day, the reason they were is because they were sales-centric. They were always thinking about sales. They were always great at selling, whether it be selling investors, selling employees on the inspiring goals and aspirations they had, selling the consumer on the product, selling the media on what was going on in the business. I found that so often the greatest CEOs and the greatest founders have an innate ability to sell things. And a lot of times, in my opinion, it's selling their people on their ideas, selling people on their mission, selling people on what that product or service is going to do for them, and thereby it fuels the entire culture of that business to be a sales organization. Like, there's a reason why Elon Musk got all his engineers on the phone to start selling, because he in himself was a salesperson. If you look at his presentation, same thing with Jeff Bezos, same thing with Steve Jobs. If you look at any Apple presentation, like the iPod, the iPhone, these are salesmen up there. These are people that are incredible at their craft of telling a story and motivating and inspiring customers and employees and staff to get around their goal and their mission, their idea, and buy their products and buy their services. And so I feel that as a founder, as a CEO, that's something we got to work on. That's something that we have to take into account, that, hey, if the culture of our business is going to be sales-centric and it's going to be customer-centric, that has to be the motivation behind our goals. It has to be the constant theme that we're thinking about is, what's the consumer going to think about, and how am I going to sell this product or service to them? You can listen to Mike Andes on the Business Bootcamp podcast. Until next time, be great, because nothing else pays.